I'm the ultimate horror story for a Trump voter, a gay atheist who wears a Gadsden flag. I mean, what could be scarier than that?
But you said that I was looking on your Facebook. You said that you recently moved to Stillwater, right?
Yeah, I live in Stillwater. I've actually lived up here for 2 years now. I moved to Glencoe first. And the chair of the Libertarian Party of Oklahoma at the time, Aaron Adams, when Joe, all that crap happened with Joe, she let me move in with her, and very, very nice on the rent. Said just pay $200 a month. You can live here till you get back on your feet. And I did that for about 8 months and got back up on my feet, and here I am. And thought everything was okay. Just got a normal plain Jane job, manager at a grocery store. I'm a management guy. It's just what I like to do. And the next day, Tiger King's released, and I had no warning, and so I had no preparation whatsoever for what was about to come and what is still coming. I actually dyed my hair on the advice that, I don't know if you can see it very well. I've got my screen brightness turned down super low so the glare doesn't come from my glasses. But I actually dyed my hair and frosted the tips, if you will, as I called it back in the Backstreet Boy days. But my psychiatrist actually said, because I told her, I have a hard time going out in public because, everyone wants. I'm tired of going out in public and people not wanting to be my friend or be with me because I'm Joshua Dial, but they want to hang out and talk or be friendly with me because I'm Joshua fuck the feds Dial from the Tiger King. And also there's an element of, everyone's staring at you when you go to the store and stuff. So she recommended I dye my hair. And so I did.
Has it helped?
Actually, do it.
I said, has it helped?
Well, today is actually the first full day. I dyed it last night.
Oh, you just did it. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
me and my husband did it for me himself. He did it himself, actually. It was like $16 to get a cap, bleach, and the toner or whatever. It was cheap. We did both our hairs. I don't think he's going to want to come on camera for a cameo, though. He's shy.
He doesn't want to say hi.
No, he decided to bleach his whole head blonde, and so I just go for the, I was born in '89, so this is like throwback.
I love that.
Well,
I respect
heard you say something about being a Trump fan, Josh. Are you there?
Yeah. What was that?
I said, you're a Trump fan? Are you a Trump fan?
No.
Oh, I thought you said you were. I'm sorry. Not in the gay community, though.
Yeah, it never surprises me each election year, every 4 years when we vote for president, how many of our brothers and sisters continue to vote against their own interests for maybe an extra 2% tax cut. I think we need to band together as a people and say, you know what, for me personally, I gladly pay an extra 2 to 5% in taxes if it means I can be free. It means me and my husband can have equal rights. And I mean full equal rights, just the same as a conservative Christian man and woman with 5 children have. I want every single one of those rights, not just for myself, but for everyone. We deserve those rights. And the way I love the way that we in the gay community brought, of course, there's the elder statesmen, I call them, of the gay community, who were the pioneers in the AIDS community, even further back in the free love community, but particularly in the 80s in the AIDS crisis. And they paved the way. They gave their lives, both their lives as in their time, but also died. Matthew Shepard, I mean, you could go on and on. People have been dying for our rights. And the way we won gay marriage, well, technically we won it because, President Obama appointed a liberal Supreme Court justice and all that. But I mean, I tend to, that's what the cynics say at least. What I tend to think is we won the hearts, minds, and souls of the people. The people that we love, like my parents or my grandparents, they said, I come out to them and they say, oh, wait, I guess it's not so bad. And,
Right.
you know, and we won their hearts and minds.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do the same thing. You know, I think that strategy worked great. And I think we need to continue it so we can gain full and equal rights as we deserve.
Yeah. Sometimes I just feel like I am so young and not exposed to the way that people used to live being gay, because I came out probably a year before marriage equality. So I don't consider myself someone who's really gone through this shit. What was it like being, I don't know if you were open, you know, before marriage equality, but what was it like just, you know, in the gay dating scene, especially in a small town in Oklahoma where, you know, even like 5-10 years ago, it wasn't as friendly.
Yeah, no, I came out in 2005. George W. Bush was president. I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but God, can we just replace him with Trump? Okay, anyways, George Bush was president, and they were trying to pass real hard this Defense of Marriage Act and anti-gay stuff. It was a hard time. I was the first guy in my school ever in the history of the school to come out as gay, so there was no gay dating scene. You know, it was a scary time because the conservatives were so emboldened by this Defense of Marriage Act. You know, things like the Phelps and the Westboro Baptist Church, that they were just igniting the fire further and further. And there was real hate. I mean, I would have to run to my car after school in 2005, 2007, run to my car before the rednecks got out of school. Because if I didn't, they were going to pull me out of my car and beat my ass. And even when I did make it to my car, they chased me. I'd actually think the reason I'm so good at like Grand Theft Auto and stuff is because and this is funny, but also true and serious, I had to learn how to evade these people. You know, they were on my tail. So take a quick turn down an alley so they don't corner us. And, you know, I remember one time we were driving through Pauls Valley, is where I grew up, Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. And we were driving through Pauls Valley Park. Hope the statute of limitations going out on this. But they were chasing us through the park, and they had us corners, 3 cars. And the only way I could go is if I was to drive through a metal barrier onto the softball field. That was the only option I saw other than potentially, you know, being, you know, victims of, you know, a hate crime. So we blew right through that metal thing, screwed the car up, but we got away from them. And they never laid a hand on us.
Wow.
I say us because I had 2 friends. They were girls, and they were allies. You know, they weren't LGBT, but they were allies. And, you know, it was a scary time for all of us. And, you know, people take for granted.
And you just got engaged, right?
Yeah, I'm engaged. I've been engaged for a while. Mm-hmm.
Well, for a while. Congrats on congratulations. And when did this happen? And who popped the question first? And how did you guys meet?
We met. So he only lived 3 miles away from me. We met. We met a couple years ago. Got engaged last year. But just by chance, you know, I was passing through and having a drink, and met him at a bar and asked him, you know, I don't know, just took off from there. It's kind of a whirlwind, really, just like the Joe Exotic stuff. I told him, you know, said, hey, do you want to meet tomorrow? I'll take you out for dinner and a movie. And I don't think he'd ever had a man ever in his life be like, hey, can I take you out to dinner and a movie? It's like, you know, the gay scene's so sexual oriented in a lot of aspects, especially in the younger ages. And so, you know, we had that date, and, you know, he went home, and then next week, I picked him up again, and he said, I don't want to leave. You know, so we've been together for 2 years, and we have yet to be separated.
What's his name?
Jackie.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah. He went down to the pool with my 13-year-old boy. They don't like to get in the middle of the podcast. They're not political folks.
Mm-hmm. Did they not like, how did they react when Tiger King came out and you got all this attention?
Well, first of all, like, I hate all the attention. You know, I would have rather have just continued my normal life. and been content on being just living the American dream. And and I say that only because people think, oh, he was on Netflix, this man must be rich. And like, that's not the case. You don't get paid for documentaries.
Right.
And so that's been that's really what makes me hate this so much. I have family problems coming up now where they're thinking that I'm a millionaire and I should be bailing my meth head uncles out of jail because I'm a millionaire, or I should buy my cousin a car because I'm a millionaire, or I should do this, I should do that, or I'm not allowed to ask for money for mental health counseling, which it's just, I hate it, but it happened. It happened. You can't erase anything that's on the internet or on Netflix. So from here on out, the best I can do is tell my story. And that's to talk about the LGBT issues, and about liberty. I am a libertarian, but I come from the Democratic Party, actually. I only switched technically right now. Technically, I am still a Democrat. I switched for the primaries to vote for Biden. I'm that anti-Trump that I switched my registration just so I could vote in the primaries.
Wow.
But I come from the Democratic Party, like I said. But I'm a liberty guy. I'm not so much of let's just get rid of all government. But I do think that we should ask ourselves in every issue, is this something that we really should be paying the government to do, or is this something that we could maybe, as a city or as a state, pay a private company? Like, something I did a lot of research on Joe's campaign, obviously. And for the Department of Transportation of Oklahoma to fix a road, it's something like $139 an hour. If you hire a private contractor, it goes down to like $40, $50 an hour.
Wow.
So those are the libertarian ideals that I try to push out, because it's not that it's a libertarian principle. It's a principle of, our money's being squandered. We need more money for mental health. We need more money for substance abuse. We need body cameras on every single police officer, law enforcement officer, peacekeeper in this state. We need action, and we need it now. And love it or hate it, this stuff isn't libertarian. I know people hate me for saying it, but it needs to be done. I'm tired of seeing people dying in the streets, being murdered in the streets, assassinated. And everyone's all cool because it's people of color. Sure, it's people of color now, but what happens when it's the gay people, and then they say nothing, and then it's the immigrants, and then they say nothing, and then they go for the gun owners, and then the gun owners get mad, but they don't say nothing either because they're all cowards. They bow to the NRA, and then they go for the religious people. When is it gonna stop? At what point are we going to come together as a country and say enough is enough? We want our liberty back. We, the Boston Tea Party, everybody knows that. Taxation without representation. Does anyone that's maybe going to be watching this, or either of you two, feel like Congress, the Senate, the Supreme Court, or the presidency represents you at all?
Not really.
I don't feel they do. So that's taxation without representation. That's why I cannot fully commit to being a Democrat, because we need representation, proper representation, before I'm willing to full on, just give 25% of my, of my wages. But we need to have these serious conversations, and we need to stop being so elitist. Like, oh, I'm libertarian, I'm woke, and you're a Democrat, and you're not woke, and you're a Republican, and you're just completely asleep. You're definitely not woke. It's that kind of venom and elitism that's ruining the political discourse in this country. This, I know more than you, therefore I'm right, you're wrong, you're fake news, I'm right news. It's, that's it. That's where it's at.
So why do you think, less LGBT people are libertarians and are more towards like the Democrats in general?
Well, we actually have quite a large contingency of LGBT libertarians. That the flag I have here is actually from the organization called Outright Libertarians. It's a caucus within the Libertarian Party of LGBTQ and allies. But I don't want to bash the Democrats, but you got to give credit where credit's due. First, let me give first credit for where it's very, very first due. Sorry. The Libertarian Party of the United States of America openly supported gay marriage in 1974, the year it was founded. They're the only party that from the second they existed has been fighting for our rights. Now, however, the Democrats, frankly, they did the work. I know Bill Clinton passed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I don't, of course, we don't agree with that. But, look what President Obama did for us. He appointed 2 solid Supreme Court justices. George W. Bush didn't even realize it, but he appointed Roberts. And if it wasn't for Roberts, we may not have had gay marriage. I love John Roberts now.
I do now. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but, at the end of the day, had President Obama not been elected president in 2007 to 2008, I would still not have the right to get married to my fiance next month or next year. Sorry. I'm way rushing that.
But yeah, I feel like hearing how you explain libertarianism is completely different from the popular conceptions about what I've been fed. Because in my opinion, or what I've seen, there's kind of like a pipeline from libertarian to more far conservative right. Meanwhile, to me just sound more like a centered libertarian, if not more of a left-leaning libertarian.
Yes.
How does the Libertarian Party bring, people from both kind of political spectrums into one party? And how do you, as a left-leaning libertarian, kind of reconcile with more right-leaning libertarians?
Right. So first and foremost, within a Democratic Party, we have your Joe Bidens, your moderates, your traditional Democrats. And then you have Bernie Sanders, who's a socialist. On the Republican side, you have folks like John Kasich, who's a conservative, classic conservative. And you have Donald Trump, who is authoritarian. Sorry, the devil just tried to make me sneeze. So within every political party, you're going to have a left and a right. And same thing with the Libertarian Party. You're going to have folks like me who are what I technically identify as a classical liberal. That's my technical, if you look it up. If y'all aren't familiar, basically we believe in limited government, but we do believe that government has a function. Now, not to be confused with liberal, which means, some of the stuff I don't really believe in, kind of the Bernie Sanders stuff, which I like Bernie. But to answer your question, it's really easier to bring Democrats over to the libertarian point of view, because with libertarians, the only thing we have to explain to them is what I talked about earlier is, do we need the government to pay for this, or is this something that we could, maybe save some money on, maybe we can, it's hearts and minds. It's all about hearts and minds. The Democrats, we already have them on the gay marriage. We already have them on the legalization of marijuana. We already have the Democrats on the open borders. What we don't have them on is the taxes and the regulations. That is an argument of logic and of reason. However, with the Republicans, it's arguments from emotion. It's arguments about LGBT, anti-LGBT, anti-women, anti-gay, and what they stand for, anti-Planned Parenthood, pro-war. So to that, those are all emotional, those are all emotional feelings. So it's a lot harder to speak to someone's emotions and bring them over into the Libertarian Party than it is for me to go to Democrats who are, and many studies have no, I won't say proven it, but I've seen quite a few studies that talk about the different kinds of ways that liberals and conservatives think. And it's just a little bit easier to talk to a liberal and say, hey, do you really think it's all right that if I pay to dig a hole on my property, pay to put water in it, pay to put fish in it, pay my property tax, pay the land rent, should it be okay, and is it okay that you as my neighbor would have to go to the state of Oklahoma, pay the government for a fishing permit to come to my pond that I paid for completely 100% to fish in it? And I mean, anyone's answer is going to be no, right? I mean, why would you need or even more extreme in New York? In New York, you have to get a permit to stargaze. You can look it up. I mean, you can't make this crap up. And I think these are easier arguments to talk to Democrats about and say, hey, maybe we don't need as many regulations. Now I'm not saying get rid of all regulations. I'm not saying get rid of all taxes, but let's go through with a fine-tooth comb and just start just giving liberty back one bit at a time. And so that you're right, there is a pipeline to the right, but there is a pipeline to the left as well. And I stand as the pipeline to the left.
Yeah, and like I feel like in general, both sides kind of at some point don't take the Libertarian Party seriously. So how do you get people to be like, people who like don't like the Democrat or Republican candidate, but they're still considering the middle, but they're also like, man, like specifically in this election, you know, people are like, I don't like either, but I'm voting for Biden because I know it's my best chance. But I mean, there is a Libertarian candidate for the presidential race. How do you convince people to, you know, take the third option seriously?
Yeah, well, you know, for the longest time, I was the kind of guy that wanted to vote for the person who I thought was going to win. I wanted to vote for the winner, you know. And I think a lot of Americans, we're Americans, we like to win, you know.
I think
you know, and I think a lot of people are still like that. But I myself have learned that I need to vote for who speaks to my heart, who represents me, even if they only get one vote, because voting is a sacred, precious, and rare privilege on this earth, and in the whole solar system, you know. I mean, that's huge. And, you know, I have to vote for who speaks to my heart, and who speaks to my heart is Joe Jorgensen. And there's even more reasons. You have in Oklahoma, it used to be higher, but the Libertarian candidate has to get 3.5% of the vote on an election in order for the Libertarian Party to stay on the ballot and exist as a party in Oklahoma. So if I decide to say, oh well, I'm giving up, I'm tired of Trump, which I am. I say I'm taking one for the team, I'm voting for Biden. That's one less vote for Joe Jorgensen. Now, if Joe Jorgensen does not get 3.5% of the vote here in Oklahoma, my party's dead. And, you know, we have city council members. Chris Powell out of Bethany's a city council member. He's a registered Libertarian. One is a Libertarian. Chad Williams out of Choctaw, he's chair of the Libertarian Party, also an elected Libertarian. And so we have, I mean, all politics is local. Anyone that's ever heard anything political knows that. And it's just not worth it to me. It's more worth it to me to secure ballot access for the Libertarian Party so we can continue to get these small town city councilors, sheriffs, and people who are focused on liberty. And that's really, at the end of the day, why I'm voting for Joe Jorgensen.
You've definitely explained like what it means to be a libertarian in a beautiful way. But my question is, did Joe Exotic understand what it means to be a libertarian?
No. And one of my probably my favorite Oklahoma politician, Connie Johnson, got to interact a ton with her, because I'm usually a very humble person, but I was a pretty damn good campaign manager for Joe, because I was able to get him on stage with every debate and forum. I mean, he was on there with Governor Stitt, with, at the time, Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb, Gary Johnson, all them, Gary Jones. You know, we were able to do a lot of stuff and get around to a lot of people. But I remember one time we had left the debate with, it was all candidates, everyone was there, and we walk into the limo and he says, I really like that Connie Johnson, she's a Republican, right? And it was just over. It was like, yeah, sure. No, I was like, Joe, she's a Democrat. And he's like, well, what are we? I'm like, Joe, we are libertarians. This was like 8 months into the campaign too.
What?
Oh
And he wasn't on drugs, because I mean we'd be in that campaign limo 12, 16 hours a day. Like he sat on one end, I'd sat on the other for obvious reasons. I didn't want to get fondled or anything. But I'd sit at the back and I'd keep my eyes on him because I'd prep him, you know. My worst fear was someone was going to quiz him and say, I bet you don't even know the First Amendment of the Constitution, which he didn't. And so I would sit in the back of the limo and I had him have a cheat sheet of the first 10 amendments, Bill of Rights, right? And I go, okay, Joe, let's go over. What's the Second Amendment? You know, we just go through stuff like that. And you know, we spent a lot of time together. I never saw him, you know, snort one, take anything, shoot anything up. Never.
But like, did he do this? I mean, did he ever tell you basically, oh, I'm doing the campaign because I want to promote myself? Or was he genuinely so just delusional that he thought he was actually helping a good cause?
I think it was both. I think at first it was all for publicity. And then when he realized, because when he ran for president, he didn't have me working for him, and he got he was on no forums, no nothing. And when I came on for his gubernatorial campaign, you know, I had him on the news, you know, interviews, KOCO, did tons of interviews with KWTV. KFR never really liked us. They only came down once. Got him on all these debate stages, forums, and all that stuff. So, you know, he definitely got some good practice.
I mean, I know you said that that the documentary itself really didn't depict Joe truly in the way that like they kind of made him seem more positive than what he was. What kind of I guess I don't know if it's abuse, but just shit that what would he put you through personally as his campaign manager that wasn't shown in the documentary?
He was just verbally abusive. He was verbally abusive, and really the most abusive thing that he did to me, and it's the day that Travis shot himself in my office. I had to go back in that office that day, for 3 hours after they removed the body. Bullet hole to this day is still on that wall. And from that day, for the next 7 months of the campaign, I had to go sit in that office. Bloodstains on the carpet, bullet hole in the wall. Never once gave me a penny to help me go to counseling. Never once gave me a day off to even go do it, even if I had the money to do it. And I just had to relive that over and over and over. And that's really my biggest beef with Joe. However, I will say this. I do need to say this. Joe was convicted under guise of what we used to call entrapment. You know, the FBI wore a wire, basically said, hey, you want me to have this lady killed? And he said, yes. That's entrapment. That's supposed to be wrong. So I do not feel that it's fair that he was convicted with such severity. Now, as far as the tigers go, the other counts, he had 5 tigers. They were to be euthanized. The state of Oklahoma, or the federal government, mandates that he pay a veteran to come out, or veterinarian, sorry, not veteran, veterinarian to come out and euthanize them chemically. Joe chose instead to, as we in Oklahoma, I'm sure, you know, I mean, I personally, as a kid growing up in Oklahoma, had to go back in the backyard and put a dog down with a 22. And that's what Joe did with the tigers instead of getting a veterinarian. So I'm not, you know, yeah, he was an awful person, but he doesn't deserve to get what's essentially a life sentence. You know, he's not going to.
But with regard to entrapment, don't you have to, in order to be entrapped, you have to agree to pay or agree with the arrangements? It's not just a yes or no thing?
Yeah, and I think he had agreed to tentatively agreed to payment, but payment was never exchanged. There was no payment. There was cash was never handed. Just a handshake agreement or whatever it was. Um, yeah, but still, I mean, I'm not comfortable with the FBI going around and just throwing people in jail. I'm not. I'm just not. I never will be. I'm not under Donald Trump. I won't be under Joe Biden. I wasn't okay with it under President Obama, and he is my favorite president and my idol. And I wouldn't have been okay with it, and I would have spoken up.
I like it that you say that, just because it shows that you're very intellectually honest when you can recognize that Joe is an asshole, but what they did to him was wrong. And that takes a lot, especially on like a, someone who's involved in politics, that you can show something, which is a crazy concept called nuance, and people don't want to recognize that. So, I mean, like, obviously you're very open about a lot of stuff, and you mentioned about dealing with PTSD, and I'm not going to have you go through the instance, but like, how did that manifest in your daily life? Like, was there ever any triggers that you had to avoid, and did Joe just kind of like throw you right back into that?
Yeah, he just threw me right back into it, and I'm still this almost 3 years later almost going on, and I still haven't identified my triggers. Only loud noises, obviously, if I'm not expecting it, loud noises, but like I still can't pin down my triggers because I don't know, it's hard. I think that maybe, like, also, like, if people are like really mean, like if they yell at me like Joe used to yell at me, that's another trigger, which is weird that I don't know, I guess like my brain is associating what happened with Travis with Joe, and it kind of lumps it together. But the rest I'm still trying to figure out. Yeah, because I mean, I'll just go like that on a dime and just lose my shit. And I tell people, I'm like, that follow me, I'm like, I'm gonna warn you before y'all follow me on social media. I have bipolar disorder with schizoaffective disorder. I have every anxiety disorder that there is in the book. I have PTSD, and I have massive depression. I said, and once or twice a month, I'm just going to lose it. I lose it. I still have not gotten the proper treatment I need. My GoFundMe I put up for counseling money, got frozen. So, they started, sending threatening letters, and people kept on reporting it. So I told them they could shove their GoFundMe up their ass, and I just gave up. That's where I'm at. I give up, just.
Man, do you think that if if Joe didn't put you in that situation where you had to go back to that same place every day, your PTSD would be less strong? Yeah. And
my PTSD controls my life, every single second of it.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. And being in rural Oklahoma, I can't imagine there being any like good mental health sources.
Yeah, I mean, you basically have to be unemployed, or have to threaten someone or yourselves' lives in order to be institutionalized. And that's something that it's a huge failure of the state and of, frankly, the country. Anyone that needs to go in for 3 days to get their meds stabilized should be able to do that free of charge. And it should be made locally, as many places as possible.
Mm-hmm. And
I mean, can we not just, can we just not just end one war, or just remove one military base from overseas and just use that money to help people like me who, suffer with suicidal thoughts every day, and know the fact that if I had to go inpatient, then I would have to try to kill myself in front of my kid and my fiance, or threaten to kill my kid or my fiance to do it, which I would never do. So I'm at a high risk for suicide as a result of failed government policies.
And that's the kind of things that, as a libertarian, that you're advocating for. It's like, okay, if the government's going to take our money, well, it better be for a fucking good cause.
Right, and don't get me wrong, I'm not in a majority of libertarians that's going to say that, but yes, that's my libertarian message. Absolutely.
How
I
is
mean,
your part? Go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so you're already diagnosed with PTSD when you met your partner, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so how has he been there? Has he been able to help you cope with it?
Yeah, it's just it's a struggle. My Jackie was born with fetal alcohol syndrome, and he's actually disabled. He gets a disability check. Uh, his learning disabilities so severe, but he's very high functioning. Just like I have to read. He can't read, and doesn't know reading comprehension and stuff like that. And so we help each other. I help him with his disability, and he helps me with mine. I'm not going to lie and say that it does not get pretty contentious in this house when both mine and his disabilities are flaring up at the same time. My poor Jackie, he's been through a lot. When he was his mother passed away when he was 3, and the day of the funeral, 2 of his uncles, his sister's brothers, raped him as a 3-year-old boy.
Oh my God.
And
Wow.
and then I believe about 3 years after that, his grandpa was a Vietnam vet, and sat on the couch in front of Jackie and shot himself in the head. So we've got a lot of issues between us. We ought to be on Dr. Phil or something. I don't know. We definitely need like couples counseling, but I mean, that's so expensive. I can't even afford counseling for myself. Because it's not that we don't want to be together. It's just we need a professional to tell me like how to help me be more patient with. Because if I say just something simple, he's like, "What are you talking about? I don't know what that means." And it's frustrating for me to try to I don't know. It's a fault of mine that I get frustrated that I have to essentially lower the way I speak as far as intellectually, and it's just simple lessons he wasn't taught, like, and it's hard. And then for him, like, yeah, he hasn't quite yet understood that when the recognized signs I'm going to have an episode, and sometimes instead of just doing the right thing and calming me down, he wants to fight me on it and argue on it. And I did the same thing to him. So like, but I mean, nothing's perfect. But he loved me. He loved me, and we met long before we even knew Tiger King was going to be on Netflix, before I became famous. So he's stuck with me. It has put a strain in our relationship because he feels like sometimes I care more about the Tiger King than I do other things in the family, which is not true, but that's how he feels. It's just, you hear about this all the time with folks who are thrust into fame suddenly, and they have all these relationship problems. But I absolutely refuse to let Netflix ruin my joy and the love of my life.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm a firm believer in working things out, and I don't ever hold a grudge against anyone. It's not my nature not to forgive. It's just not.
Yeah, you were saying that like on a Facebook Live that people were like verbally and physically threatening you, and like it's been a continued thing. Was this because of the fame, or because being gay in a small town?
That and the fact that I was just telling the truth about Joe. Yeah, he don't deserve to be in prison, but he was an awful guy. And people I mean, these people are like cult followers of Joe. And yeah, they've threatened, threatened my life, threatened my family's life. And
Holy shit.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Were
And so
they
I mean,
there like when you were on the farm? Like, are these people that came in when the documentary showed up?
after the documentary showed up. Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
that's fucking
So
insane.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, but just going back to your relationship, it just seems like while it can seem like being fire and gasoline with two people with disabilities, I feel like you guys can also kind of understand each other because you guys have gone through so much shit that you can give each other that break, you know?
Well, and it's like, and this is the first time of me being in love, right? But with Jackie, it's not that I just love him and not just that I think he's just the sexiest man alive. It's that like I going to be seem really, really geeky and teen girly, but like I feel like it imprinted on him. Like, for Twilight, where the wolves imprint on the people, where they just want the best for them. They just want to take care of them. They want everything to be happy. They want them to have everything they want. And like I have that as well as my love, as well as my attraction. Like I want everything for him, and even if that means nothing for me, and like I just want what's happiest, what makes him happiest, even if that means it's not me eventually. It's one day. I just want him to be happy, and that's how I think maybe I love him for sure.
I mean, that's pretty pure right there, if you ask me. That's
Yeah.
that's pure intention. But when it comes to like going back to just you being a resilient person, like how did you even convince yourself to stay with Joe for that long, man?
There was like a bond of pain that formed when Travis killed himself. I mean, it was his husband, and I mean, I was a sole witness, and that's all I thought through the years. That's the only term I've kind of thought of is just a bond, and that bond was forged with pain of the loss and of my partial loss of my sanity, and we were real close after that. And I think that bond, I didn't want to leave Joe. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in spirits, ghosts, gods, devils, nothing. But I felt that Travis would have wanted me to stay.
Mm-hmm. And
Travis wanted,
how did Joe
I
even
think
cope with it?
he coped up with it. I mean, everyone copes with death in their own way. The day that Travis died, it was a swarm of bees come through the park, huge swarm of bees that are migrating, and Joe believed that was Travis come back in bee form, and I actually have pictures on my phone to this day of him having a bee on his finger and kissing it. He would just hold on bees, so he felt like that. Travis was bees and Travis was still there. So I really don't know. I mean, beyond initially, of course, I mean, he just what you would expect if you lost your husband. I mean, just wailing and just horrible pain. I'm an empath, so even thinking about the memory of his pain is it's too much.
Mm-hmm. Do you still even keep contact with anyone from the Tiger King Ranch? No.
No.
You don't keep in touch with Joe?
No, I keep in touch with Team Joe. His lawyers run his Facebook, and I try to. I'm not going. First of all, I mean, don't get me anywhere near Donald Trump. Period. So I'm definitely not going to ride the Tiger bus to D.C. to ask for his pardon, because he would not get a pardon, and I would probably be in Guantanamo Bay for cussing out the president. But I'm not on Team Tiger. I'm not on Team Carol. I'm just on the team of truth. I think people deserve the truth, and the truth is those were his tigers. He paid for them. He paid to feed them. He paid to board them. I personally don't see why a setup, sting operation, undercover operation, entrapment, whatever you want to call it, and him choosing to euthanize his own tigers in his own way, I believe he deserves to die in prison for that. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
It must boil your blood when you see Carol Baskin on Dancing with the Stars and fully capitalizing on this.
Yeah, not really. The only person that reached out to me when Tiger King came out was Carol Baskin. And
Really?
she didn't reach out to me to ask for a refutal of Joe's accusations. She didn't reach out to me for support. She reached out to me to ask how I was doing, to make sure I was okay mentally and make sure physically, because she's gone through death threats and she knew I was going to get them too. Because she's been getting them for years. So Joe's been after her for 20 years. And every conversation we've ever had has just been cordial. How are you doing? Keeping up with each other. We were talking once or twice a week. Ever since she got on this Dancing with the Stars thing, I haven't been talking to her. She's busy as heck. But what really boils my blood is when people are like, oh, well, you're complaining about needing an electric bill paid, or needing needing help with your meds this month. You should have just capitalized off Tiger King. Yeah, well, I mean, you have to have capital in order to capitalize. And, I have no capital. I had no capital when Tiger King came out because I was not paid by Netflix. The only thing that Netflix gave me were these earpods that I'm wearing for this podcast tonight. And that was only because they sent them for the Joel McHale interview, and due to the pandemic, they're not pandemic return policy. They weren't able to return the earpods because they've been in an ear. So I was given these just for the shits and giggles, basically, not even for compensation. So these earpods better last me forever. Maybe there's a golden ticket in there somewhere. I might dismantle them or something. But so what am I supposed to do with these earpods? The computer I got on was so generously, it's a MacBook. It's the nicest computer I've ever had in my entire life. It was given to me by a fan, actually. It was it was so nice. Yeah, people were so great when this first came out. And, someone had reached out to me. I'll keep his name anonymous. And he said, brother, I want to do something for you. I said, oh man, I was like, I'm all right, man. If you want to donate to my mental health fundraiser, that'd be fine. He said, no, I want to get you something that you can have for yourself. And he said, do you have a computer? And I was like, well, I've got an old laptop. And he was like, how about I get you a new computer? I'm like, okay. And so, he said, go pick one out. So I went on Walmart.com, picked out like $189 Chromebook or $150 Chromebook. And, I'm a humble guy. And I sent it to him. And he's like, no. And I'm thinking, oh crap, this guy's being generous, and I didn't want to deny it. He sends me back the order form for this 2018 MacBook Pro with 32 gigabytes of RAM, a terabyte hard drive, like an i8 processor. It's like a $4,000 computer. Like this computer I'm talking to you guys on is worth more than my car. So like, don't get me wrong. Yeah. $4,000. Yeah.
Has there been more fans like that have been pretty supportive of you?
No, not. I mean, yeah, here and there, but not really. This was really just one gentleman, I guess, that I guess, I mean, and it wasn't just like I don't know. It's just some people are nice, and I guess we're just so used to like this polarization in the country that sometimes we forget that sometimes people who are wealthy or have good means just sometimes want to help or do something nice for someone that they feel deserves it. And I think that's what this was. And, I mean, and God love him. I mean, this is an amazing, I never would have been able to afford anything like this in my entire life. But besides that, this came way after I had even a chance to capitalize on it. Because had I had this and these, sure, maybe I could have done a podcast and capitalized on it. But, I mean, I don't know sorry, I know that drug that out way too long, but yes, it drives me crazy when people say capitalize on it. All the talk shows are closed. They're doing them from home. They're not bringing people in. People aren't flying guests in. People aren't doing shows. They're not. You can't go to a casino and see a show. You can't go to a ballroom to see a show. You can't go to a comedy club or a club and do a show because there's been a freaking pandemic, a global pandemic. I mean, so it drives me crazy when people are like, stop asking for money. You should have just capitalized. Capitalized on what? You know, go down on the end of a street with a sign saying I'm Joshua Dow from the Tiger King and have a mask on and what? And what? You know? And what? Sorry, I'm getting heated.
No, you're good. I feel like those people, though, maybe I could be wrong, most of them are just fucking trolls. Like, why would they go out of their way to want to, like, give you so much pain? You know? I just feel like
jealousy, I think.
It's their joy. Yeah. Just bringing someone down really does that to some people. It gives them so much happiness, and it makes me crazy.
Yeah, it's sickening.
Yeah.
I mean, and like you said, like, you can't ever be prepared for fame like that. And especially on Twitter.
No.
Like, here's the thing. I'm comparing Tiger King to RuPaul's Drag Race in the way that every fucking queen that gets on there literally either gets off social media completely or has to release a huge statement saying, calm the fuck down, because all these fans are nasty and vile. And it is just so fucking upsetting. I'm like, first of all, half these
and I loved me and Jack. I love the Widow Von Du, and it just really upset me to see that.
Yeah,
I agree.
So, are you a super Drag Race fan?
Yeah. I'm a big. I actually, I don't know if it's still open, but the Rec Room, it's not. But it was like it was 15 and up, wasn't it? Or was it 16 and up?
You know, I think I think it was lower than 16, but I'm not sure how low. It might have been 15.
So at the age of 50, because I came out early, you know, in comparison from other kids that age. So at 15, every weekend we were going to the Rec Room. I have been a drag fan. I do prefer like regular, you know, hometown drag. I actually have a friend I graduated with that I would want to give a shout out to, but I only know her by her birth name, so I'm not going to offend anybody.
Look her up. We'd love to plug her, but like I'm gonna ask you more about Drag Race.
Yeah, I just don't know how to.
Oh, Jalika. Jalika's a friend, but you know what? I don't know her real name. I know somebody that does, but
yeah, me. But yeah, Jalika. We were in band together actually in Pauls Valley. We went to the same school. Jalika was Jalika percussion? Yeah, she was percussion. She was a drum player. I'm pretty sure she's gonna get me on that if that's not true. But anyways, yeah, and she was actually like the second, like after me. She was the second person in Pauls Valley history, high school history, to come out. So yeah, but I love just classic, good old hometown drag queens. But I love RuPaul. I mean, I just love it. And the drag, RuPaul has done so much. I mean, don't get me wrong. The dude can't sing. The dude can't do his own makeup. The dude can't dress himself. But the straight community and the community that doesn't have the queer eyes like we do don't see that. And so he's bringing a positive image and winning hearts and minds once again, like we were talking about at the beginning. So I totally respect RuPaul. I love RuPaul. RuPaul.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Kind of off the topic of RuPaul. But we like to ask our folks that live in Oklahoma, are you a proud Oklahoman, Josh? And if so, why?
Yes, I am a proud Oklahoman. When my mom actually lives in Houston, Texas, and so when we drive back from Houston and we pass the Red River, I always play, the old Broadway production of Oklahoma. They couldn't pick a better time to start in life. It ain't too early and it ain't too late. and it goes into Oklahoma. You'll know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I play that. I play that every time we cross the border, and if anyone's in the car, I wake their asses up because we are singing it. I am a proud Oklahoman. I think we are doing fine as Oklahomans in the last 4 or 5 years. I would obviously prefer Drew Edmondson for governor. Actually, I prefer Joe Exotic for governor because I would have been the shadow governor because he already told me I would run everything. But no, I mean, think about what's happened. I mean, we had medical cannabis. We've had prison reform. We've had Medicaid expansion. Yes, Medicaid expansion. And we had the legislature pass a bill saying that you can own a firearm and still have a medical cannabis card. So,
yeah,
I mean, we got a long ways to go, but you bet I'm a proud Oklahoman.